Welcome back to the channel. So football's officially back. Well, at least the preseason is. But we still have a lot to talk about with the Hall of Fame game now in the books. Cowboys 3, Steelers 16. Tonight I'm going to share my thoughts on the game, what it might mean moving forward, who stood out, who stood down, what we can take from this game to apply it into the coming weeks. Tonight I'll be joined by a very special guest. But before I get into it, I want to ask, if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button. And if you love this video, hit that sub button because it makes all the difference in the world with just one click. So joining me tonight is a very special guest. He's a creator and co-host of the Phinest podcast, and also a contributor like myself at theleaguewinners.com. I'd like to introduce Mr. William Spencer. Will, how you doing?
Excellent. I am. Football is back. You get the but the football heebie-jeebies off because you've been in withdrawals for the whole time this off season. So it's good to be back.
Same. Definitely, man. Glad to have you on. So let's get right into it, man. Let's get right into it. For those that don't know you, tell them how they can find you on Twitter. Tell them about some of the work you do outside of that, and kind of tell them how you became a fan in general. Kind of give them your backstory a little bit.
All right. So first, you can find me on Twitter at hype_Phinest. That's PHIEINEST. And that's because I had the whole Philly thing going because I'm from Philly. So I'm a Cowboys fan from Philadelphia. This is why I use the PH in some of my stuff. So you can also find me. You can also follow my podcast, the Fantasy's Finest podcast, Fantasy Football, on Twitter as well at Fantasy's Finest. Same thing with the finest part. So,
all right, and links will definitely be in the description below. So let's get right into it, Will. So looking at the game, what are your initial thoughts on the game? Just watching it. First thought.
I mean, it's preseason, so your expectations of the game have to be tempered. You can't go in there expecting to see week one top 5 defensive plays and all this. No, that's not. When you go into a preseason game, you should be looking at particular players or positions and seeing what they do, how they look, certain guys, and going on that route. So I mean, as far as the game goes, it was okay. You want to win, you want to see a W even in the preseason because it looks good. But it's more like what players were standing out. So it was okay.
Okay. So going into it, any player you had marked off, I know I did going into it, kind of in the lead up to the game, I'd marked off Makawamu, Simi, but nothing much from them. We'll talk about it more in a second. But for you personally, anybody you had marked off that you wanted to see do something in this game?
I was looking at the secondary. I like the Nation Wright. He was getting busy tonight. I didn't see too much from Calvin Joseph. But I don't think he had anything negative called against him, so that's a plus. The guy I really wanted to see get busy tonight, and he was getting in the backfield, was Quentin Bohana. I know I'm probably chopping his name up, but that's one of the guys that I was like really locking into out of the draft. So I'm hoping that we can get that big defensive tackle monster in the middle, and we can shore up that run defense because it was not good last year.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I think that's one of the things people want to carry over from last year. And things typically don't carry over. I think you'll probably agree. It doesn't carry from year to year in the NFL, but that was one spot we all circled. I know for me looking at it, yeah, I think there was, a marketable difference in the game, just how they played it in the middle. I think he held his own, but kind of having a broader approach to the whole thing. Based on just watching this game, walking away tomorrow, because I'm sure tomorrow will probably feel different, but looking at it in hindsight already, do you feel indifferent about the game with the results? Are you upset? Are you encouraged? Where do you feel so far? Just blind taste test.
I think it's too early to tell. This off season, well, training camp really just started. You're gonna see as we get closer to the regular season, more and more out of the defense or individual performances per se. So am I disappointed? Just the outcome of the game, but the whole point of the preseason is to see what players are going to make the team, who's doing what, and what are they showing that could add to what is needed for the team. So as far as that, no, I'm not disappointed or anything. It's preseason. You can only get but so hype about it. It's just football's back.
Okay. I mean, I think for myself, maybe I can't help myself. I think I'm so dialed into where I don't care what it is. I just want to win. But like you said, I mean, a win looks nice. And it could be anything. We could be playing anything. We could be playing 33 outside, shooting around. You want to win. So, I
Yeah.
mean, would I say I'm discouraged? I'd say I'm in the middle if I had to pick a side, really, because I think for what you saw early in the first couple of drives, you saw that they can move the ball. We'll get to that more in a little bit. I'm sure there's a downside to that too, but I think they kind of capsized themselves on offense. On defense, I thought for the most part they kind of held up pretty well. So you kind of got a little bit of both. We saw one player that was kind of all over the field, which we'll probably get to him later. But yeah, I'll say I'm probably right in the middle where I got some good and I got some bad, which kind of levels it out to put you right square in the middle. And kind of sticking with that theme from what we saw this game, is there anything you think that we saw tonight might carry over into the summer and possibly into the season?
Mm, I can't. I'm gonna say not right now, but I do like Micah Parsons. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field. I think his energy and his ability to get to the quarterback is going to be something that the Cowboys really need. And I'm not sure if the Keanu Neal, hybrid linebacker slash safety thing is going to pan out. Like we need, I think we need guys that can play their positions. I know they like to flirt with flexibility and all of that, but you need guys, you need a safety to play safety. You drafted two linebackers this year. Keanu Neal can either play safety or he can go somewhere else because you have Leighton Vander Esch, who's been good but not healthy. Jalen Smith is going to be out there, and Michael Parsons. That trio could be nasty. You're not going to waste that. You're not going to waste the pick and that talent because you want to flirt with Keanu Neal coming down into the box. Like, nah. So I think Michael Parsons is going to be one of those keystone players.
I think kind of branching out that point with Keanu. See, I thought in the game, I think Keanu made a couple plays, a couple tackles in space, which I was actually on last night with the Talking Boys with the Boys podcast last night. Shout out to Mark and Adam out there last night on the show. But they told me, they said they don't think Keanu Neal can even go back to safety at this point. And I said the same thing. I
Ooh.
thought, yeah, I thought Keanu had the ability to go back to safety because the comfort with Dan Quinn and just familiarity. But they're saying it's a case where he's remade his whole body. So now
Oh.
it's like we don't even think you could even. It's like almost a miracle that you're even walking at safety. Like you're like his body is so much different now. As like you couldn't even do it. But I do agree with you. I mean, in the grand scheme of it, I do agree that there's so many numbers there and the opportunities. And I know I talked about it on Twitter today also with like you're saying with Michael Parsons, where he's going to be in place to make a lot of plays based on his controls. Meaning, like you give him the green dot in the helmet, you allow him to line up everywhere, play in space. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you. You can't take another year back there, but yeah, that's definitely one thing I was thinking about myself. So you're saying that you don't think there's anything else that can carry over. Like Michael Parsons is going to be the guy,
Well,
the
I
chess
mean,
piece.
because of what they invested in him, they have to get him out there. If I had to go a little deeper and try and pick a guy who is worth watching this offseason, and maybe Jabril Cox too, because we don't have issues at linebacker, but we do need depth. I don't think that that's something that we had like last year with um Leighton Vander Esch going out. Like, who was the next guy up? I having talent and depth at that position may be key to helping the run defense this year. So maybe Jabril Cox is another guy who we need to be paying attention to this offseason so far.
Yeah, I think the undervalued part about like you were saying with the linebackers is also the coverage aspect, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, we don't know because there's been questions about, leading up from the draft about Parsons and coverage. And I know Cox is a guy we feel good about. But then, we've had things with why is he not playing in practice? But he plays tonight. And he's like, okay, he's a little confident here. So maybe that's not the problem. But I mean, I was thinking about when the game went on and off as a theme that could carry over from this summer into the season. You might agree, you might not, man, but I thought the fullback, Siwo, I can't say his last name, Oli Nula. I thought he showed out in a lot of different spots, man. From seeing him, he can run the ball, he can catch the ball, he can block. They actually had him lined up as the tailback in the shotgun and had him picking up blitzes. So I think knowing like McCarthy, how he likes to incorporate the fullback at times, like I think that actually helps their numbers later on. I think if you allow that guy to step in and do some things, maybe you don't have to carry that extra running back, maybe you don't have to carry an extra tight end. You now have bought yourself the extra flexible roster spot at the end. So I think he's running unopposed. I think we have one fullback there with him, but I don't think the other guy can bring all these things to the table. So I think this is one theme that they like it enough. They could carry it all the way through the summer, going into week one. Basically, is your Jameis Olawale that we didn't have before.
Okay.
So, but all right. So moving on real quick. Maybe it's hard to say because it's so early. Is there one player that surprised you the most tonight, or that left you disappointed, or both?
Now I don't have a player. I really don't have a player in this category. Only because my expectations for the game weren't outstandingly high because it's the first preseason games.
All right, fair.
So nobody really, I don't know, outside of maybe Noshawn Wright. I'm saying his name wrong. Outside of Wright, I don't think that there was anybody that really caught my attention. And I'm trying to pay attention to. I'm trying to watch the game to key on certain players and be a fan at the same time. And I'm not good at that. So like I'm watching the game and fumbles is happening and people getting the ball dropped out of them. It's like, oh. Then it's like, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be paying attention. So like I can't, I'm gonna be completely honest. Like I was so fanboying, so because I was glad, football is back. But the secondary is one of the positions that I'm watching the most or trying to watch the most. So seeing anything come out of there would be a plus. We got a bunch of young guys back there. And I still think that a couple of those positions are still in flux, especially at corner and safety. So just watching that and see how it goes, because we don't know who's going to be the number 2 behind Diggs coming into the season.
And I know it's hard to kind of catch it in the broadcast, but I was trying to, catch it or even notice what was going on. I don't know if Pittsburgh ran a lot of 3 receiver sets tonight. I don't think I saw that. I was hoping to see who was playing.
Juju, I don't think Juju played tonight.
No, he didn't. I didn't see him play. We saw surprisingly, and this is kind of more so if you're a Steelers fan or a fantasy player, but we saw a lot of Chase Claypool, and I thought that to be very strange. Like, was that weird to you also?
Well, I knew I was paying attention to some of the reports that were coming out of Steelers. They want Juju. Well, Juju wants to play outside, but they're not really prone to moving him out there. They want him in the slot. So if he's in the slot, you got Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson on the outside. So that's probably why we were getting a taste of Chase Claypool on the outside today. That's something to pay attention to in fantasy because I mean, they're going to try to get back to running the ball. But if Juju's not going to get the work, and I still think it's too early to presume that because Ben Roethlisberger does like to throw the ball a lot. But if they get back to the running game and you got Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, that's the future right there. Because Juju may be gone at the end of the season. So it's just something to keep in mind, when you're going through your fantasy drafts.
Oh, no, I got you. So, yeah, I couldn't break you off from what you normally do. So I couldn't pull you away too far. But that's all right. That's all right. So we can bring it back to that. But I think that was the part we were looking at. I was trying to find in the broadcast was who plays the slot. And I think the slot guy was, Morris Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still, I think that's going to be kind of undecided turf because when we talked about it last night on the pod with the guys, you paid 2 guys recently to play your slot. And I'm seeing the slot person was Kennedy. But when they did go in the slot, I saw Anthony Brown on the outside. And I thought Anthony Brown didn't look good. Maybe you noticed the same thing. I didn't think he looked that good on the outside. I thought he gave a lot of easy releases on the outside.
He's never been that guy to play out there. He can, but you're not comfortable with him out there. I've seen him get burned up too much before playing on the outside. So he's either in the slot or he's not on the field at all.
Yeah, and that's what I think might be a weird pan for me. Like that's the one thing I was trying to kind of pick up on in the game, just kind of have a close eye as to what happened there. But nobody that you can say let you down in this game.
Not yet.
Okay.
When you get into week 2, week 3, well, not week 3, because that's like, I say maybe next week, because it starts to get a little tighter. Because I think we only have 3 preseason games, right?
Four, four,
4. All right.
four. So this was the extra one because typically
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
in years past it would be 5 with this one, but now that they've cut down to 3, this is 4. So, and which still I think is people are trying to figure out now. Permanently, we have a 3 preseason schedule now, so 3-game schedule, I should say. Now it's figuring out how do teams manage this extra game or lesser game if you have it. So that's still to be determined. But and you can tell me if you disagree or agree. I think if I picked the player that had me surprised, I think Rico Dowdle kind of surprised me a little bit. We got to taste him a little bit last year, but I didn't realize he actually has some good characteristics, man. And I don't even mean from carrying the ball from the backfield because he has some juice from the backfield. But the thing that had me impressed on that first drive was he was lined up outside, out wide, went across the field on a, I believe it was a slant for a first down. He showed some pretty decent hands. So I was like, okay, this guy actually can play a little bit. That they might have a nice trio of running backs, but between Zeke, Pollard, and Dowdle. So I thought he was pretty good to me. I was pretty surprised by him. The guy that let me down, I thought it was Brandon Knight, to be honest with you.
Mm.
Like, I watched the game and I said, man, this guy. And the thing is, I thought from last year when everyone was hurt, he got all this playing time. I thought he was actually making progress and improving. Like, if we went into this game tonight and I said, your starting tackles or the tackles that play the most time is going to be Brandon Knight and Terrence Steele, and one of them is going to have a really bad night, I guarantee you would say Terrence Steele played terrible. Right? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So it was actually for me, it was quite the opposite of what I would have thought. I thought he was late out of his stances. I thought he looked stiff. I don't know if he played hurt or what, but I thought he looked stiff. I thought he took a lot of steps back. And I think again, things that you can carry over, maybe he won't be as bad in the coming weeks, but with
You praying
Nsekhe
for
there,
it.
he's going to find himself in a tough spot if he's that swing tackle now, because now you have numbers. You have Nsekhe, who's a veteran. You have a 4th-round pick who, if he's healthy, is making the team. So, yeah, I mean, I was pretty much let down by Brandon Knight tonight. So me probably doing the whole sky's falling thing, I'm going to ask you this question. And if you're not ready to cross that bridge, don't worry. I'm going to push you right across anyway. Is there any player you think tonight put themselves in danger of not making the team by having a bad performance, or are they at the very least in a hot spot if they don't pick it up by Arizona next week?
I mean, I can't say. I mean, you made the case for Brandon Knight. Outside of that, I can't. Nobody comes to mind. So you're gonna have to push me off the bridge.
So somebody watching the game as a fan tonight.
Honestly, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You got me.
Content creator hat was all the way off the head. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'll take this one here. You tell me if tell me if I'm probably doing too much. But honestly, I thought Cooper Rush was pretty bad. I thought he was pretty bad.
But I mean, then Ben DiNucci came in, so it's like, all right, who you having a duke out for who's the worst number 3 quarterback, because Garrett Gilbert was better than both of them. Like, there's no competition there. Like, in my opinion, Cooper Rush they got rid of him and then brought him back. So you already know he's not up to where they need him to be. And he's been in the system for what? The same time Dak Prescott was there. The same amount of time, 3 or 4 years.
Roughly.
So how much more do you need to see of Cooper Rush to know that he's not good enough? Garrett Gilbert, they grabbed him off the street last year. That shit.
Well, okay. And I know when I hear talk Steelers, I know this is not why we're here. Watching the game, and I look at the pecking orders. So I think for some fans, it's almost beneficial to watch the game with the sound off, because the announcers have a way of like posing information to you and selling you information that you, as a content creator, analyst, whatever you want to call it, you already know better even before they say it. Because I think it was one segment during the game, they're talking about Dwayne Haskins and saying that he's really he's kind of handled the offense well and he's kind of stepping in right away. And I said, okay, you're talking about Dwayne Haskins, but this is the same Dwayne Haskins that has had all these problems in Washington. But then I heard these same positive, glowing praises about Joshua Dobbs, who's now the 4th string quarterback in Pittsburgh. But when I watched the game, I was like, well, I think Josh Dobbs seems to run the offense better. So it's not really where these guys are slanted in the depth chart so much as what you actually expect out of them. Because I think when I looked at Cooper Rush, I said, well, Cooper Rush has been in the league for about 5, 6 years. You said Gilbert came off the scrap heap, which I understand that's fine. But I think as a 6 year or 5th year vet, you should have a little bit more accuracy and touch. He didn't have that at all. It was spotty. I mean, he threw the ball as well as the kickers kicked the ball in this game. That's
Yeah,
how it looked like.
not smart. Bro, now I did see Nas Wander. He was getting chewed up on Twitter. They was like, "Yo, he need to be cut by halftime." I'm like, "Oh man, that's cold." And he was like, "Yo, this is
Now,
the guy Fassel was banging the table for." Like, I'm like, "All right."
but I'm sitting there like, who wants to tell him? Like, people will know this is our punter, right? But people, I, I don't think anyone caught on that this is not the kicker. Like, this is the punter. And that tells you with preseason, some things are already be taken with a grain of salt because ultimately they're not here to win the game. They just want to see what they can try and what they can do. They're going to experiment a lot.
So throwing the
About,
punter out there was like, "Hey, let's see if this works."
I think the weird thing is that if your kicker, who we believe is a very, very good kicker, if your kicker is coming off an injury, what is the harm in having a backup kicker in camp? Because at the very least, it's like, well, if our kicker gets hurt again, I have a short list of names to call. That's the whole point. I mean, that's why you would try kickers for the camp anyway. Like, you just have guys there, in the Rolodex to call to come kick for you. So I didn't quite understand what that was all about. I mean, yeah, he was getting killed on Twitter, but I mean, but a lot of fans don't understand that he's our punter and they're trying to do something new. And we're going to talk more about that whole experimenting things in camp and preseason in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is the way we looked at it, man. I was just like, okay, Dallas seems to have an issue right there with the backup quarterback. And to be fair, I don't think Garrett Gilbert was perfect also.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had a couple moments there where you're like, I think it was it was a touchdown drive, I believe. No, it was a scoring drive that ended in a field goal, but it could have been a touchdown because Noah Brown was wide open. He looked at him, he held it, and he didn't make the throw. So I mean, they have issues at backup quarterback anyway. So I think it's anything, like I said, there's themes that we can carry over is, I mean, backup quarterback is still going to be a question marks all the way through. All the
If
way
you
through.
had, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you had an opportunity, what do you think is the best way to address that? Because it doesn't seem the Cowboys want to do that through the draft, or at least they haven't. It doesn't look like they have. And there's not a lot of guys on free agency that you can call in that would be viable. What is that a priority that you would make during the next draft?
Um, who was the last quarterback they drafted? Well, yes, I would. Yes, and it all depends in what round, because I mean, us as Cowboy fans have seen draft picks get spent on quarterbacks in the middle rounds to late rounds, and they weren't very good. I mean, you just drafted Ben DiNucci in the 7th round, so they tried to address it with Ben DiNucci, right? And nobody's happy. Nobody's happy. And years before, it was Steve McGee, I think, in the 4th round. Then Mike White, I think, in the 5th. It's just, I think the best route for this team is to get a veteran, and if the veteran seems to be Garrett Gilbert, I think there's probably more good than bad with Gilbert in camp. If you're around CeeDee Lamb in camp, what do you think about Garrett Gilbert? He'll probably sing his praises too, I think. Um, but this team does, I think, need to carry a veteran quarterback. I really do think they have to carry a veteran quarterback. Who knows? Do we believe that Andy Dalton actually makes it out of camp, or Nick Foles? So I
Oh
think the guy.
God.
I mean, you wouldn't like it. I mean, it's not. It's not. I mean, backup quarterback is, you're not going to find too many guys that are starting caliber guys or on the cusp of starting caliber guys sitting out there. You're not going to. But if the Bears would have cut Nick Foles, cut Andy Dalton, perhaps, do you call that back? I mean, maybe not Andy because he's already here, so he probably doesn't want to go back that route. But who knows? Maybe Nick Foles. Um,
The only reason I scoffed at Nick Foles is because you know what the narrative is going to be. If Dak goes down and all of a sudden, oh look, you got Nick Foles coming in, he's going to do the same thing that he did in Philadelphia with Carson Wentz, and I just don't want to go through that noise.
it's because you're in Philly. It's because you're in
That's
Philly.
exactly why.
But that's the thing with any quarterback that isn't Dak Prescott on the team, and I think that's just the thing we can't really fight. The most popular guy in the room is the backup quarterback or backup running back. I think this was a topic today on Twitter was taking accountability for your takes and just owning them. I mean, I tell myself when I was a kid, I thought Sherman Williams, the backup running back in Dallas, was cool. I thought he was good. Like I think so. We can't fight those kind of prevailing narratives. Oh, yeah, the backup quarterback. Oh, he could take Dak's job. Nah, not after he signed for a $40 million contract. That the ink is dry. Dak is your guy. As actually speaking on Dak, just because it just hit me just now. Are you buying any of these things about his shoulder? Do you have any concerns about the shoulder?
No, you got a lot of time left between now and the week 1 start. There's no reason to rush him back to play preseason. Just let him get that shoulder straight. He'll be able to throw maybe 2 weeks before. I would say, look, if he's throwing 2 weeks before the season starts, that's fine. I was actually watching NFL Network a couple hours ago, and Michael Irvin was like, I was a little concerned because he was throwing the ball 2 yards with his left hand. But then Mike McCarthy said they'll probably try and get him to start throwing next week. So I was a little eased off about that. So if he's going to throw next week, what am I concerned about? They're probably just going to test him out, see where his shoulder is. If he still feels anything, to shut him down. But he's got plenty of time to recover. There's no need to rush him. He's not playing in any preseason games, or at least I wouldn't put him in any. There's no point. Like I know he wants to, shake the rust off, get hit a couple times, get that feel back because he's been out for so long. But I'm not in the position to be like, yeah, let's throw him out there and see what happens. Nah, I might let you get in a couple throws and then shut you down because I don't want you. These games don't mean anything. So I'm not going to put my star quarterback or my star offense out and have you get hurt in a meaningless game. So they got plenty of time.
Yeah. And I think that carries over to everybody else on the offensive too. If you watch the game tonight, people listening out there, every graphic told you what they were missing last year with the offensive line. Those guys are in bubble wrap to get them to week 1. Everybody, not just Dak, but Collins, Martin, all of them, Smith, all of them. They want to get them healthy and back on the field. So, no, I wouldn't chance it. And I think this is a thing of keeping Dak from himself, keeping them away from himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Mike was talking online saying that, who's to say Dak is not trying to sneak out a camp at night to make some throws. So, it's one of those.
He got his own football field in his house. He probably throwing it, he probably chucking the ball a little bit at home. You don't think he can afford one of them target machines or the target nets with the colored slots for different spots? He got one of them draws back there.
What they paid him, he's probably got one on top of the roof of the apartment building.
Throwing 50-yard bombs, trying to hit them targets.
Yeah, so I mean, no, I wouldn't be concerned. I think you had said it. Like it's a varying interest in Dak's injuries versus whatever's going on with other people around the league. Just because it's the Cowboys, people have an interest in that. But I think we both agree on this one. There's nothing to worry about on that. That's nothing. That's neither here nor there. And he'll be there week 1. I would predict. I think he does play though. I think in the dress rehearsal he might get 1 series.
Yeah, and that's just enough to shake the rust off and say, "Hey, you got your jitters out. You good? All right, now go sit down."
Yeah. And for the record, I have no worries that he's going to play any different when he gets back. It's just there's something about him and his mental makeup that seems like if he says he's good, he's good. Mm-hmm. He's going back out there, and that's that. So
that was just one of the I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, go right ahead.
That was just one of the narratives that was going around in an off season. Oh, he's not going to be the same player because the injury was horrible, and he's not going to be the same. He's not going to be mentally the same. And then he comes out, and it's like if you have been paying attention to how he carries himself in press conferences and interviews and all that stuff, he's mentally tougher than a lot of other guys at the quarterback position, in my opinion. So when he comes out and says, I've been working on getting past that injury, been focusing on rehab, and he's been doing all this stuff in the offseason, trying to prepare himself to get back to training camp at 100%, ready to go. Why would you doubt him now? He's told you repeatedly that he's bet on himself time and time again. But now all of a sudden, this is the time that we're going to bet against him. Okay, that makes total sense, despite the evidence that's contrary to what you believe. Okay, you go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go listen to the man who's telling me he's bad. He's past his ankle injury and he's ready to go.
Nah, I don't believe any of that stuff, man. I think he's like you said, 100%. He's sincere. He's what you call sincere in every step of the way. So what he says is what's going to be. I would expect him to be back along with other stars, and the offense should come back humming. So transitioning on, if there is so actually, I'll do something different this time. So I'm going to name a group of positions. You can name a different one if you want, and just let me know which one that you feel the most worried about and the most at ease with. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have in this game and going into the season, backup old lineman, linebacker, corners, safeties. Which spot makes you the most worried right now? Which one has you the most at ease? Or other?
Most concern would probably be the backup offensive lineman. We talked about Brandon Knight briefly earlier. I really want Tyron Smith to play a whole season because I don't want to see none of them guys come back. And I don't think that Dallas took the opportunity to try and address and get a veteran to slide into those uh, depth roles behind Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins. For the position that I'm most comfortable with would probably be maybe I want to say the linebacker position, but I kind of like the guys we have up front in the front four at the defensive line. You want to see more from them throughout the preseason, um, especially from Gallimore. I know we got Randy Gregory. I'm not really worried about him. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. I'm not worried about Randy Gregory, but I can't wait to see him and DeMarcus Lawrence on the field at the same time because I feel like we haven't seen that since he's been out. But him coming back and like really taking care of himself this offseason, being mentally focused and dialed in, and I think he has a contract coming up. So
Yep.
if he can, if he balls out this year, you gotta lock him in. Like this is what we've been waiting for the last couple of years. So now, if he does it, you got your bookends. You finally have your bookends, and I think that that's one of the things that I want to see. I also want to see. I already told you about Bohana, how I felt about him. I can't remember who was the other
Pick from
defensive.
last year.
Tristan Hill.
Tristan
I
Hill.
want to see what's up with him. But I think that's about it because he was having a good year before he had that knee injury.
He was.
So
He was.
Whether he can return to form is something that I'm looking forward to.
I think for myself, just thinking about it, I think we talked about line. I think O line probably is the one I'm going to circle. I'm going to kind of cop out though this time. I'm going to cop out, say the backup quarterback spot. I think that's the one that has me now the most concern behind Dak Prescott. And the reason why I say it, just to frame it like this, is that if everyone else is healthy and Dak goes down by some freak injury or whatever setback, if you will, I don't believe it happens. But if it does happen, you then have this great setup of weapons with a healthy offensive line. Pollard looks like he's going to be a pretty decent player. Actually, Pollard to me looks like he actually put on some weight from last year. But Pollard, Zeke, the tight ends I like a lot too. I like Schultz. I like what Schultz showed. I like Jarwin. If Dak isn't there, I think that's the one I'm worried about because they're going to capsize what the offensive potential is. And of course, there's a drop off between a $40 million quarterback and everybody else. Of course that there is. But even in this game, I mean, the hesitancy, like the chasm between a premier starting quarterback to a backup is so vast in the NFL that you really just shortchanged everything. A guy not hitting an open receiver on a curl route in the end zone in a Hall of Fame game, it's like, yeah, we brushed it off in August. When it's happening in October, November, it's going to upset you like crazy. So I think that's the one it came to the forefront again because of tonight. So that's the one that I say I'm most concerned with, least worried about, man, only because I think it's an unknown still. But I think they have, like how you felt linebacker with the depth and the numbers thrown out there. I actually feel okay with corner, believe it or not. It's like a weird, quiet confidence. Like you said, we didn't see anything negative necessarily from Joseph. Wright played a lot. Actually, if you saw it tonight, Wright actually played as a gunner, I believe, on a punt and did pretty well. And I think Kennedy looks like he can play a little bit in the slot as well. And there's been pretty good reports with him. I think when all those guys and all those numbers you throw out there at corner, when you throw that wide net at corner, if they're all there and how they fit together, whether it's, Brown in the slot, trading off of Lewis, you have Joseph on the outside with Wright and Diggs. I actually feel pretty solid about that spot. I know fans have kind of been freaking out about it and wanting to get Xavier Howard and Stephon Gilmore to fit those roles, but I've had this quiet confidence about it because of the depth and what they tried to do to it. So I'll just say I'm actually okay with corner. I'm worried about quarterback, but I'm kind of okay with corner.
Okay. I like that. You're if I see another game with Marshawn Wright doing damage out there, I think he might be the number two.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and this is going to be what sticks with him. And like I said, you can agree, disagree. I think with him, he's so unironically popular because of the draft pick of being taken in the third. When people are saying, "Oh, he should have been a sixth rounder. He should have been an undrafted guy." Unironically, his bar is so low. All he has to do is just step over it. He's already passed your expectations. Like that's how low the bar is. This guy can go get 2-3 picks this season. We'll call him underrated. Like he has the power to flip his narrative just like that. It's amazing what he could do based on something he can't even control of where he got drafted. But the traits are there, man. I mean, like throwing over him is a task for anybody.
Yeah, he's like what 6'4"?
He's 6'4", man. He's 6'4". He's got range. He tries to locate the ball near and high point the ball.
Thank you. Finally.
So it's like you're kind of getting what you want in an unexpected package, which is cool. So I'm feeling what's going on there. I think that's a pretty good fallback for them. So I'm okay with corner the way it is right now.
Yeah.
I'm surprised neither of us have said safety. So because none of us said safety, let's just talk about it. Let's toss it out real quick. You're okay with safety because why?
I'm okay with safety. I actually don't know why. um, I don't know, man. Donovan Wilson, he was solid for what he was tasked to do last year. I think he can build on that. And if you get him some help up front, that'll make his job a lot easier. Um, one who is it? Reggie Robinson is a guy I want to see be able to be out there. If you're not going to have Keanu Neal turn back into a safety after what you said earlier, Robinson, who else is going to be that other safety spot though? Like you have Wilson back there, and then you have
The thing that's always been weird was always been the pairing of who the safety was next to Wilson, because I think they pegged Wilson as the guy closer to the line of scrimmage as your quote unquote strong safety. So when you sign Hooker, and maybe this is why I'm cool with it. You sign Hooker, and
I forgot about that.
it's right. All good. It's all good. I tell you, man, I'll push you off the bridge. I'll get you there. Don't worry about it. It seems like when you sign Hooker, you pretty much have the guy to play your middle third. So that makes everyone feel kind of at ease because it's like you have that whole field. It's like they could take the help one to sign out the window now. They don't have to keep looking and trying to fill that spot. So you got KZ, you got Hooker, and those are your free safeties to play that spot. Reggie's a corner, they say today, but with Reggie's like he's a corner today, maybe he's a safety tomorrow. I feel like Reggie's never going to get a fair shot in Dallas just because there's so many things moving around. There's so many new guys at those spots that he really finds himself almost on the outside. So when I said, is there a guy that might be playing himself off the roster with his performance? Maybe it's Reggie because he's the man with no spot.
Yeah,
it looks like they just keep floating him around wherever they need him to see him playing late in the fourth quarter in this game. I mean, although Wright played late in the fourth quarter too, it just felt kind of weird. Like you're still playing in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that might not be a good look.
Nah. I mean, and maybe it's early. Maybe they have another plan for him that we just haven't seen yet. But that was what caught me off guard a little bit. But I think that's why with safeties, I'm comfortable because they have enough numbers and they toss pieces out there. Just like corner, like I said, they toss enough pieces and numbers out there to where you can feel a little bit comfortable with the plan. At least as a fan, you can see what the objective is. So maybe that's why we kind of feel like we know what's going on. I don't know if you think differently to something like that.
No, I can rock with that.
All right. So moving on, man. So I know I talked about things that may carry over, things that have staying power. I'm going to ask you kind of a two-part question here. So, and I saw this during the game, and I thought I was kind of impressed with it. And I'm not the person that looks at something and says, okay, that's basic, that's mid or whatever the case is. When I watch a game as a fan, when I watch a game as a fan, and I see different fronts and alignments, I don't say, oh, that's nothing. So what I saw was, I think in one setup we had what was a 3-4 alignment. We saw a 3-4. I saw three down linemen, two outside linebackers. And I think it might not have been a blitz, but I think it might have been at least like a man coverage behind the five in the front look of a 3-4. If I'm explaining that right. I don't know if you saw it too. It looked like it was a 3-4. So my question is, do you think Dan Quinn has to show anything extra in these preseason games? One, as a first-year coordinator in Dallas, and two, because the unit last year was so bad, and he has a lot to work and improve on. Do you think that he has to show more in the preseason, more looks, more things? Also, given, like you said, with Michael Parsons, just trying things out, do you think he's in a spot where he has to show us more things than he normally would, because this is a big project to redo in Dallas?
I
And
don't. Go
and
ahead.
sorry, last part of the question, just to kind of simplify it, can they afford to, as they say, quote unquote, keep it vanilla?
I don't think that they're going to keep the vanilla because that hasn't worked the last few years. Um, Part of the reason why he was brought in was to revamp the defense. Will he show a bunch of different looks during the preseason? No. He will give you, I will say at the very least, he'll give you a taste. Like, hey, that's not something that we've seen before. Or they're blitzing more, or they're showing different formations. I don't think he's gonna tip his hand to the point where it's like, oh wow, this Cowboys defense is gonna be something crazy this year. No, it's preseason. They're gonna do certain things, they're gonna have certain plays set out so that it's gonna be different, but it's not gonna show the whole scope of what they're doing on the defense. It's just gonna be a taste of what could come during the regular season. I don't think coaches are really prone to showing their hand in the preseason anyway, because those games don't mean anything. So if you tip your hand too early and now it's like, okay, well, they're running some things that we've not seen before, but it looks similar to this, or it looks something like this. You put that on paper in the preseason. Now defenses, no, excuse me, not defenses, but opposing teams have something to look at to try and guess what looks like what, or how to figure out your defense earlier before you had it planned. So I don't think Dan Quinn is going to be tipping his hand like that. I do expect to see, little dabbles of something different to get everybody's beak wet, so to speak.
I guess to me, and maybe I'm telling on myself as a observer, or as a, I guess a amateur analyst, if you can call it that. I just remember a couple years ago, I think we were watching that game. I think it was preseason, was I think Dallas and Oakland, and they sent a blitz, and it's what they call a green dog, where the linebacker, he delayed the blitz, saw that the running back was staying in to protect, and just took off running. Now that's something for me was over my head. I didn't think they ran that kind of stuff. When you say vanilla and it's simple, I'm assuming you guys are playing man up, cover two the entire game. Like, you guys aren't mixing your stuff up. When I saw that, I said, okay, well, you're not afraid to show this. So if I had to guess, I would say, yeah, you're gonna see some things in preseason. You're gonna see what you were expecting. You're gonna see probably you're gonna see some stuff like some 3-4 looks, some different fronts. You might see some corner blitzes, some slot blitzes. I think you are gonna see some things. I think he has to do this because he has to get these guys to buy in. Mind you, we still are living in the age of COVID. So I have to please put on something for you guys to see, hey, this is what we do. It looks like this. If you aren't here, this is your assignment. Micah Parsons, you can be here, here, or here. Because like you said, they're going to put a lot on Micah Parsons. So I think they have to kind of give him the crash course only based on the linebackers. You said there's numbers there. Yeah, there is, but there's numbers because of health precautions. So you worry about, Leighton Van Der Esch, you worry about the performance of Jalen Smith. So it's like, I have to teach you these things now because it's going to be up to you either right now or in the future because I took you so high. So I think you're going to see a little bit more than usual. Again, I'm just the casual observer that has a microphone next to me. So, I see it a certain way. You might see it something different compared to somebody else. So, but I think you'll see a lot more different things with Dan Quinn, and they'll have something to prove. I do think they'll have something to prove.
Yeah, they got to, because the defense was so bad last year, from not from top to bottom, but it wasn't. If you're planning to make postseason appearances, being 31st against the run is not the way to do it. Being in the 20s in pass defense is not the way to do it. These pieces, or these spots in the defense have to be better than what they were last year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Otherwise, it's a failure. And I'm not saying, we should 1 year and then Dan Quinn is out the door, but we've already done that with Mike Nolan. So it's always the option. I don't think that they should do it, but Mike Nolan's defense was just horrible from top to bottom. So
Yeah,
Dan Quinn he has his work cut out for him.
absolutely. I mean, I think the only caveat in this, and this is not me just being an optimist of the Cowboys or being a fan of the team. It's that it's very hard for a team to be that bad. Like looking at last year, the mistakes they made last year on defense, those things were almost on purpose. It's like somebody was out there just trying to pay their gambling debts off. Like it's wild because you know how hard it is to line up in the wrong gap incessantly. Like always like line up in the wrong gaps, not be set at the snap, not be prepared. Like those things that kept happening or gamble. Like we watch the game the same way. We see, hey, this is a cover three. Why is this guy playing man in a cover three and everyone else is going deep thirds? Like those things were almost obviously wrong and it kept happening over and over again. I don't think that discipline stuff is going to be a problem this year. And for them to go from 31st to like 15 or 16 or something like that, it's not a stretch. It really is not a stretch. It happens more often than people would think. It's not, an uncommon occurrence. So no, I think you'll see improvements, man. I think you'll see definite improvements. And Will, if I have you back on, we'll definitely talk about thoughts on, next season or this season, I should say. I'll save that for another time.
Okay.
But the Raptors show up, man. One last question. So this game, after months of waiting for this game, months of no football and being on hiatus, give this game a grade from A through F. Give the game a grade.
I'll give it a C. We saw some good
See,
things out of there, only because they didn't win. So it's that kind of knocks them down a full grade. But we saw some good things out of the offense and the defense. Like you said, we brought up some good points about what positions are still going to be needed or still going to need to be addressed. But it's still early. It's still the first preseason game. I'm not going to hold it to a high standard. We still got a lot of players that still need to be sorted out, positions that need to be defined, depth, all that stuff. You're not going to decide all of that in just one preseason game. So, yeah, I'll give them a C. They skirt by. It's like it's not even a
C
high C. It's
minus
like it's like we just got there. That's
69.7 or 69.8.
yeah. On a grade, I'm on a curve.
I think I'd scale it back to I say a D. I mean, and the reason why I say a D is yes, I do want to win games. They can be insignificant. Look, I would rather go 4-0 in the preseason, go 16-0, 17-0 in the regular season, and win the whole thing and be undefeated. I really don't care. Like I'm that trivial and petty. I want to win games, but besides the actual score, what it looked like, I thought, man, I walked away kind of. I said I was kind of in the middle, kind of indifferent, but which I guess you could call it a C, but maybe it's a low C for me. Maybe a C minus in the sense of the backup linemen still had me worried. The quarterbacks, I'm still looking at like, okay, this has got to be better from you guys. And I'm not going to drag Danucci too bad because he actually had some. The pick was probably egregious, but he made some throws under pressure that I'll give him credit for.
He is not Mahomes. Somebody need to tell him to stop slinging that sidearm.
Man, he has a baseball career that he doesn't know about yet. I'm sure.
He'll find out quick if he keep throwing like that.
I guarantee that guy played shortstop somewhere. I guarantee it. But I mean, I think that was kind of one of my things as a downside. It's just, I mean, and I guess the kicking game thing might have made the game look worse than it really was. That's probably one of the things that maybe we can just kind of dismiss a little bit. But I say, and I give him a D, maybe a C minus, I think. But I'm still walking away a little bit disappointed. So maybe the grade is based on them just only putting the 3 points in this game. So I'll say that. But I'm disappointed. But we are looking forward to Arizona. Hopefully it's different with Arizona. Hopefully they actually do more than what we saw. One positive thing I will say was Malik Turner. I thought he was a good positive as a receiver.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. I wanted to see these other receivers give some more shine to play and do things. Noah Brown did okay with what he had to work with, but guys like Fehoko, I want to see him play and do something. So hopefully next week against Arizona it's a little bit better. But before we get out of here, Will, is there anything else you wanted to add to the show?
I'm just glad to be here, man. Thanks for inviting me. And I'm definitely looking
Appreciate
forward to
you.
the next time.
Definitely glad to have you on, and I appreciate you showing up, man. But that's it, guys. That's all we have for tonight. So, my special guest, William Spencer, I'm LP Cruz, and as always, Cowboys up. Peace.